I share what I'm listening to and my thoughts on music and the business daily for free at helloyassine.com.
Anybody say the N-word around me getting packed the fuck out. Fuck is you talking about? But me, I'm a nigga.
Is it just me, or does every new rapper need a gimmick now? Rappers and musicians have always used gimmicks to create conversation and buzz around their image. In the 90s, we had Lil' Kim's nearly naked outfits and overly sexualized lyrical content, and Eminem with bleached blonde hair and a do-rag with shock value alter ego Slim Shady. The 2000s gave us Nelly's Band-Aid under his eye, 50 Cent's tank top and bulletproof persona, and Birdman and Lil Wayne's face tattoos. The face tattoos, accompanied with colored hair, would become the gift that kept on giving because the second half of the 2010s, fruity colored hair and face tattoos were stretched to their maximum gimmick potential by 6ix9ine. We also had Nicki Minaj with her alter egos, costumes, wigs, and sexualization, then Cardi B, stripper turned digital personality, transformed into Grammy award-winning musician. But whilst all of these rappers had a gimmick, the ones that lasted were more branding than anything else, and it wasn't a necessary aspect of their career. 50 Cent took an event that happened to him and used it to brand himself. Besides, getting shot 9 times and surviving is larger than life. It earns the right to be bulletproof, and it was his music and clothing that reflected that. Eminem being a skilled white rapper under Dr. Dre was enough of a unique proposition to hip-hop that it brought in a new white audience and global appeal never before seen to the genre. The way he dressed just fit right into what was customary in hip-hop at the time. Nelly's Band-Aid was just a cherry on top of the already successful image and artist. It wasn't what would make or break him, and the same can be said for Birdman, Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, and most other rappers that have had gimmicks in the 90s, 2000s, and I would say until the mid-2010s. There has always been a ratio of gimmicky rappers or flash-in-the-pan songs that would blow up in comparison to genuine artists, perhaps 1 to 10, but now it feels like that ratio has skyrocketed to 1 to 2. Now it feels like some of these new rappers are the gimmick, and sadly, need some sort of gimmick to blow up. I can't think of many artists that blew up in the past 5 years organically, meaning without label push and backing, that didn't have some sort of gimmick aiding them, whether it was intentional or not. So I'm just going to go down the list and name as many as I can remember. When a black male wearing a ski mask with an angelic voice singing in a country tone about the struggles that most rappers talk about while sampling Rascal Flatts, it was both mystery and gimmick. Whilst he wasn't a rapper, he blew up within hip-hop due to the image, and the search was on to discover just who RMR, short for Rumor, was, where he came from, and whether or not he was an industry plant. Industry plant being an artist that was already signed, funded, and marketed with the appearance of organic growth and independence. For a long time, people thought he was secretly Kirk J., the country singer from The Voice. Rumor has since been unmasked, but the amount you cared is likely evidenced by your shock that he even showed his face. You didn't know it happened because you didn't care or pay attention. And until I was researching for this video, I didn't know either. RMR's Spotify monthly listeners have shuddered to around 300,000 now after a 4-year gap between his debut album in 2020 with Warner Music and his most recent independent project, Tribune, distributed by Artists Without a Label, aka AWOL. Perhaps another testament to an artist whose business struggles caused his career to be cut before it even took off, but don't let that stop you from checking out his new music because it's far better than anything he came out with. I was genuinely blown away listening to Fever and Sweet Divorce, 2 completely different records in sound and even genre. It even made me disappointed to see that he's not getting more attention. But for more music that I'm listening to, go to helloyassine.com. I send a short message daily about what I'm listening to, thinking about, and more, all related to hip-hop and the music business. 4bat's gimmick was evident. In a way, it was a new rendition of what RMR did. It isn't hard to catch listeners off guard while they're scrolling through TikTok with a pitched-up song dressed like a drill rapper with a shiesty mask and crew behind you. 4bat's falls more into the R&B umbrella, but his career peak was higher than most other gimmicks we'll be covering throughout today's video. His rise started in late 2023 with his debut single Act 1 Stickers 99 immediately gaining attention. Following that song up with a bigger hit called Act 2 Date at 8, and in December of 2023 it went viral on TikTok. The song became 4bat's first appearance on the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 59, an impressive solo feat. Only a month later in January 2024, Ye made it known that 4bat's was his favorite new artist and gave him a big public cosign. The next song, Act 3 On God, She Like, was released on March 3rd, 2024, but the hype really turned up 5 days later when a remix of Act 2 Date at 8 featuring Drake was released via OVO Sound on March 8, 2024, pushing the song to the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100. Then the very next day, Forbats signed a one-off recording deal with OVO Sound just for the release of his debut EP, which came as a shock for an artist that seemed to appear out of nowhere and didn't seem to have much leverage. The talk of Forbats and Drake having possibly ended their relationship behind the scenes after his debut project was released through Gamma Records instead of OVO amped up all over again later in the year when Forbats released another song called Hood Grammy on November 29, 2024, that also had nothing to do with OVO Sound. It's actually under Boo Vision, which is the record label run by Boo Thiam, an individual who managed Ye recently prior to John Monopoly. Boo is also Akon's brother and has another rapper we will be covering later in this video signed under him. It was now looking like the only piece of music by Forbats that was done through OVO was the remix with Drake. While I wouldn't say Forbats has fell off, his last release, Hood Grammy, was in November with no new music in sight, big collaborations announced, or anticipation from most, despite him being a decent artist. But whilst we can't write him off completely just yet, 1.4 million streams after 3 months for a rapper who earlier in the year was getting tens of millions per song, it's looking like his blow-up has fizzled out and it's time for him to establish himself. Ice Spice is the only female on this list, and you can decide if that's a testament to her ingenuity or how rigid of a formula it is to blow up as a female rapper. Ice Spice's image was a major part of her ascent into the mainstream, but it was also what made it so difficult for her to get a buzz in the first place. Munch was the song that put Ice Spice on the map, alongside her getting flown out to Toronto to meet Drake and potentially sign to OVO, or do some other things, neither of which seemed to happen, and an unfollow from Drake soon after sent the hip-hop blogosphere on a frenzy that only sent her numbers skyrocketing. At this point, she had several songs: Munch, Euphoric, Name of Love, and No Clarity, the last two of which was following the formulaic Bronx drill instrumental that was sampling a popular, nostalgic song that we all knew, usually a positive and uplifting song, and adding other elements of drill in the production and aggressive lyrics. Whilst I was insulted when I discovered No Clarity, largely due to the fact that one of my favorite songs of all time had been bastardized by someone as talentless as Ice Spice, I was impressed by how quickly she was able to rise with minimal resources. These music videos were low budget, same location, but still consisted of her signature gimmick, the orange curly hair, which is a wig, and the move she would do where she turns around and shakes her behind whilst covering her groin with her hand. Many people wondered why Ice Spice was only working with Riot, her producer, even after she blew up. It would later come out that they were dating at some point in time, but the truth behind it is that no other producer was willing to send Ice Spice any beats. Ice Spice was well connected in the New York City drill scene, friends with a ton of the artists, even producers. But when she eventually started rapping, they all thought she was garbage, which they weren't wrong, and Riot was the only one willing to work with her, which paid off big for him, as well as her loyalty, at least business-wise. Munch was the perfect amalgamation of visual, slang term creation or popularization, gimmick appearance, sex appeal, and contrast with a female doing drill. The result? Men spreading it like wildfire, whether for lustful reasons, debating whether it was trash or not, wondering what the hell a Munch was and if they were or were not one. All this male attention on a female rapper would eventually transfer to women's interest to what she had going on. But the curviness and twerking had always remained Ice Spice's signature branding, until it wasn't. Ice Spice started rapidly losing weight, and at her thinnest looked like a completely different person, which led to many fans pointing out comparisons that would garner millions of views, with fans dropping brutal comments like, "You whack now, you not Ice Spice anymore, you now Cinnamon Sticks." It seems to have struck a chord because as of late, Ice Spice has seemingly gained some weight back, which has the thirsty promotions and engagement as high as it used to be. This should be a testament that the allure of Ice Spice has nearly nothing to do with her likable personality, or far less to do with her likable personality than certain people were trying to purport. And if we go with the 80-20 rule, that 80% is most certainly allocated to how, quote, thick she was, which is unfortunate that this is something that only female artists need to worry about. But the game is the game. B.O.P. KOSHER is a rapper that I instantly took a liking to, and it's not hard to see why. The Gimmick is staring you in the face, and the timing of his blow-up directly coinciding with Kanye West's DEFCON 3 tweet and subsequent media appearances throughout 2023 almost felt poetic. Kosher in his name, two singular wicks that we're used to seeing on black Southern Florida males replacing the position where curls stand on Hasidic Jews, compounded with the skateboarding references, replacing with cracker, Jewish bars, beat selection. I would say that BLP Kosher was someone who was more of an enigma than just a gimmick the more you learn about him. Finding out that he was really from South Florida, was a skilled skateboarder with old videos out there, and his public interactions with people like Aiden Ross just gave more reinforcement to the possibility that BLP Kosher was not intentionally creating this image for marketing purposes, and it was actually him. Regardless, it worked, and he's consistently put out good music since then. He hasn't blown up to mainstream success despite having a song I think could have done well if there were gasoline poured on the flame or other circumstances, and that song is Special K. It would be a stretch to expect someone whose music is straight rapping with minimal to no melodies to be alongside a repetitive Sexy Red song on the charts, although his song Fool's Gold does have a catchy melody on it. Him also being independent with what seems like a distribution deal from a smaller label doesn't help chasing that goal if it ever was one. BLP Kosher's most impressive achievement is being the first ever Jewish rapper in history to outwardly represent his background in appearance, bars, jewelry, and identity whilst not being a comedian like Lil Dicky or corny. Beastie Boys were Jewish, but most people wouldn't even know that, and that's why they don't get put in the category I just mentioned. So hats off to BLP Kosher. LaserDim is a bit of an anomaly amongst the rest of this list. If there was anyone on here who built their core follower base the least from music, it would be him. I had to have seen a LaserDim clip several times before I ever knew he made music.
With laser on some honey, you make Krabby Patty, fast food kitchen. Come on, man. That's what you like, blacks.
These are just a couple of clips that were circling around. So he's somewhat of a mix of prankster, appearing on live streams, gangsta, and entertainer before rapper. All of these things come together as a full-on gimmick because his music is an acquired taste, if we can call it that, and I have yet to acquire it. Plaqueboy Max, the streamer, is credited for LaserDim's blow-up, but he discovered him while he was with BK the Ruler, who has been popping in the underground for quite some time. So LaserDim had a tiny buzz, or ember, before meeting Max. Although it was a Song Wars stream, you have to spin for a tight beat, and whichever one it lands on, you have to make a song out of it. That's the premise of Song Wars, where Laser would really blow up performing what would later become Asian rock. He even rapped "Shout Out to the Chat" in it, and people loved him so much that Max invited him back for a 20v1 E-Date stream where 20 girls compete for his love. "Trap so old, gotta run out the house when I play my music so the roof don't fall on me" is just one of the bars that became a meme, and he has a photo outside of this trap with a roof that's caved in. He had apparently been making music since 2018 without much going for him until 2024, dropping mixtape after mixtape on Spotify, and taking music very seriously, apparently. So he started making visuals, not just music videos, but trillers, video clips, TikToks, anything that offered a visual that wasn't just music.
I don't got no bed, I got an air bed. Here this top trying to leave his hair red. I gotta pump my bed up, matter of fact.
I don't got a bed, I got an airbed, and he inflates the airbed. He took his old music more seriously, according to him, than he does his current, and it performed worse for him. Enjoy is just straight up garbage, but also has some funny music there. I don't know if it's meant to be taken seriously, but we will see. But I think this is a testament to how someone needs a gimmick, because a rapper is doing better now when he admittedly said he's making worse music. Ian is a conflicting choice for me, and I had to go back and forth before choosing to put him in this script. I would consider Ian closer to an anti-gimmick than a full-on gimmick. The reason for that is Ian blew up, musically, for sounding like Yeet, but his preview, TikTok, triller, whatever you want to call it, when a rapper is moving in front of the camera with a snippet of their music playing, spread because of his appearance, outfit, and running around what looked like a college dorm hall. He would just further lean into that throughout the year with his recruitment of Marshawn Lynch for the Lyrical Lemonade assisted music video from the song and the snippet that blew him up, Figure It Out. Ian hasn't even been out for a year yet before receiving the fell off allegations, which are completely unfounded claims considering he ran it up from 0 monthly listeners to 5 million, with a solo song doing over 100 million streams. A feature from Lil Yachty and Chief Keef, he didn't extend himself too far, capitalized on the initial gimmick with the classic meme for his debut album Valedictorian, and even handled the hate he received from Tyler the Creator with absolute class. The first album was released on his own, but the second album, Goodbye Horses, released the same year, is under Boo Vision Columbia, which is the same record label Forbats is currently signed to and run by Boo, Akon's brother. So he definitely has his pulse on who's taking off in this new generation, as opposed to another individual. Tyler the Creator would call out this gimmick in an interview saying, "This white kid, regular Caucasian man," and he's like mocking Future and Gucci Mane, like rap music. People are like, "This stuff hard." It's not even like satire. I hold rap music so close to my heart. This has changed my life and everyone's life around me. Ian's manager Boo would respond, "Yo, I signed Ian and I'm from Atlanta. He sounds nothing like Gucci or Future, lol. It's called influence. I never thought I'd see the day where you become old and hate on the youth, lol." Ian is the perfect example of what everyone claims they want a white rapper that grew up in his circumstances to be. Respectful, authentic, and consistent. He's not done anything worthy of being criticized for other than conflicting music tastes for some, but he's someone who has a strong niche audience that isn't going anywhere. Where do we even begin? NETTSPEND is the perfect lesson on keeping the hate to yourself. He would start rising in late 2023 from this Twitter clip that you see playing in the background. I can't play the music for you for copyright reasons. Go to patreon.com/helloyassine for full uncut videos like this one, and 1,000+ other videos I'll be releasing that I had to private on the main channel. I also have stream VODs up there that I can't keep up for copyright reasons. I've already got the first and second stream I ever did on the second channel. It was a rapper tier list, as well as a first time listening to Doechie's album stream. The music is garbage, and that's what the comments were. The quotes, and more, which created enough talking points alongside him looking like a 12-year-old who was rapping in the bathroom about stealing your hose while his mom was yelling at him from downstairs to finish brushing his teeth because he has to wake up for school tomorrow. This hate would just compound and compound until some teens began to like him for counterculture reasons and others seemingly resonated with his music, but he's still going and doing relatively well, even signing some sort of a deal to Juice WRLD's former label, Grade A Productions. He established himself past the initial virality of hate, but sometimes all you have to do is persist, which is a respectable trait for someone who was 14 or 15 getting destroyed on the internet, even until today. The gimmick here is obvious. White, 12-year-old rapping about things we find hilarious and can't even believe. And the music's sucking, too. If it was just the weight, it would be difficult to consider Dave Blunt's a gimmick if we didn't want to ascribe the same label to Big Pun, the last rapper whose size would rival that of Dave Blunt's, which unfortunately led to his death at only 28 years old. The comparisons don't stop there because Big Pun was a lyricist, and Dave Blunt is also known for some of his own lyrics, like his famous "'Cause I Heard That Was a Kid Diddler, Yeah, I Heard That Was a Pedophile," and his other viral on-the-radar clip of him rapping, "Back in special ed I wore a helmet in my classes," and taking a hit out of his inhaler like it was a Lil Wayne lighter flick before switching it up melodically, and rapping bars like, "No, my name ain't Tyrone, but I'm trying to F a wife." Dave Blunt's ascent would start prior to this on TikTok with different previews of songs in April of last year, like the one about Abigail, and his song Honey Buns rapping the lyrics, "I don't care if she sold her pee as long as I get me a cut. I know that her cat dirty, but not as dirty as what's in my cup." His promotion would be him just previewing songs on TikTok while sipping out of his styrofoam double cup, and his posts go back to early 2024, so it was a relatively quick ascent. What's impressive about Dave Blunt is he injects some mystery into his gimmick. Obviously, he's massive, and makes good-sounding melodic music with hilarious bars and can put together a good song. That's a solid combination right there, but he's also rapping about drugs and lean all the time, but many people, including myself, don't believe he actually sips lean.
Me and my friends, like, I don't want you around. You know, stop coming around me and my friends. Like, I don't want you around. Stop me and my friends. Like, I don't want you around.
Stop coming around me and my friends. Like, I don't.
So there's this constant mystery of what's actually in his cup, what he's actually sipping, alongside his health issues, being in and out of the hospital, needing an oxygen tank to perform at the Juice WRLD Day in Chicago, and going back and forth with an individual in LA who recorded him at the hospital. He's very unique as there's nobody else in his lane right now. There are few rappers that I give credit for this, Young Lean being one of them, where they don't even need to be the biggest because they're the only artists who deliver this type of music with the image that they have. And some people can say the affiliates of Young Lean like Drain Gang do, but they're really not the same at all, especially now. Although I do mess with some Echo 2K myself. That song Security hits. The longevity for Dave Blunt solely lands on his ability to stay alive and healthy. The man has a fundamental understanding of what does well on the internet and how to make a good song that entertains people. Plus, the guy knows how to joke back and forth with people too, like he did with Snoop Dogg. People want him to win, and I don't think he's in a scenario where if he loses weight, his raps wouldn't hit the same.
You know, last time my traction went away, I stopped dropping, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna let you know, I'm not stopping for shit. I don't give a fuck if I got 2 views. Y'all getting music all year.
This was put out on August 30th, 2024, and he didn't tell a single lie. 1900 Rugrat's a Florida native who first started bubbling in September of 2024 with his freestyles on TikTok gaining him a sizable following on the platform. His song One Take would start off like any other freestyle in his room on September 8th, but fans demanded it be turned into a song, and he obliged. At the time, with only 32,151 monthly listeners on Spotify, he had another TikTok doing over 8 million views of him freestyling. 1900 Rugrat would burst into widespread popularity as a scruffy white boy referred to as Wolverine by some fans with the on-the-radar freestyle with his crew for the already successful song. Rapping over the instrumental to the You Ain't Know beat, opening up with Cracker Got a AR like he's shooting schools up, was already enough to catch people off guard, but his unexpected voice and the way he carried the rest of the verse had people comparing him to a previous rapper we mentioned today, Ian. He cleared Ian Trash A with one track, and Bro Cleared Ian are just 2 replies along with several others that have many likes. The only comparison that can be made between Ian and Rugrat is that they're white. There's nothing similar about their background, style, flow, melody, beat selection, anything. But lines like, I'm already white ho, I don't need no white chick, would get Rugrat the attention for paying homage to Kodak Black's I'm already black B, I don't need no black B, which got him a ton of backlash. In Rugrat's case, white women and men just didn't care enough to stir a storm about it. It's evident here that he doesn't have the neck tattoo yet, but he would get it soon after and drop the song One Take Freestyle. The attention on social platforms translating well to streaming, with the original song getting over 32 million streams, bringing Rugrat to over 2.1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and even got Kodak Black on the remix. Rugrat would post on Instagram with the screenshot appreciative of how grateful he was that his life changed in the past 2 months, from earning $45 in the last pay cycle to earning over $50,000 through streaming in the most recent one. He would collaborate on a track with the previous rapper on our list, BLP KOSHER, which is the first rapper I ever heard that's white passing who used Cracker to replace, which is something Rugrat adopted in his viral clip. He's casting a wide net of collaborations. Being a Florida native, he linked up with BLP KOSHER, who would also fall under a similar subgenre with witty punchlines and bars. Neither are known for their hooks, yet. 1900 Rugrat has a much smaller catalog than KOSHER. But Rugrat would also travel up the East Coast to Philly to collaborate with drill rapper Skrilla in Kensington to shoot the music video for their song Auntie Ain't Playin', which samples a slowed-down version of Kanye West's Power. The contrast of a white guy surrounded by junkies in one of the worst neighborhoods in America while still dropping bars with the rapper actually from there is a testament to Rugrat's understanding of how valuable the visuals are to his career while it's still blowing up. He's filmed a music video and put it out hastily with every song released so far since he's blown up, including the song Turn You Up with Indiana female white rapper JORJIANA, who we'll get into in just a moment. But when was the last time you saw a male white rapper and a female white rapper on the same song together? It's a simple video, and Rugrat decided to leave the blick home for this one. It was filmed in New York, so good move by him. The positive thing about Rugrat is that he's not trying too hard. He's been making music for quite a while, exploring many different styles like this clip that began circling, as well as this one he posted himself as a throwback. Most rappers that blew up with his image would try to scrub these clips from the internet, or at the very least ignore them. But the fact that he throws them up, is able to laugh about them, and keep it pushing with what he's doing right now makes him even more likable than he already is. JORJIANA blew up in tandem with 1900 Rugrat. Her On the Radar freestyle, which would turn into her song Turn You Up, featuring Rugrat, was plastered on everyone's TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter feeds for at least a week straight. I honestly thought she was Central C's ex-girlfriend at first glance. JORJIANA is one of the examples of someone who's unintentionally a gimmick. She doesn't seem to be pretending, acting, or changing her voice, but the fact that her appearance and voice are such a rare combination and don't match with what we expected to hear when she got on the mic leads to an impulse to share the video with your closest friend, and there's no better promotion than word of mouth. Her collaboration with 1900 Rugrat was a great move, but it is yet to crack a million streams, which shows us that a lot of the attention she has gotten hasn't translated to music consumption, which is the ultimate goal. JORJIANA is in a unique position because her music isn't necessarily geared towards a female audience like a Flo Milli, neither her sound nor the lyrical content, but I'm not quite sure males would consistently listen to her with all of the other options out there. Only time will tell, though. GINN is a bit of a to be determined at the moment. Everyone else on this list, whilst using a gimmick of some sort, or being a gimmick without choice, blew up with music involved. The music was a focal point, other than perhaps Laserdisc. But in the case of GINN, it's not quite the same. Just a quick YouTube search of his name and the results came up with potentially having to run fades with No Jumper crew members, and what people think of him saying the N-word rather than the actual music. Most people don't even know his name yet, they just associate him as the white guy that's saying the N-word, and whilst the only person I can think of in the past that skated by this was 6ix9ine and perhaps OGZ as well, both of whom were Mexican, I can't help but think the right approach for GINN may have been to just ignore it for as long as possible whilst dropping music. Everyone was going to talk about it, but explaining it, doing a No Jumper interview, which I'm still 50-50 on whether or not that was the right move for him in hindsight at that point. Considering the fact that it's gotten beef with a ton more people and hasn't done much for his music, still sitting at 25,000 monthly listeners at the time of me recording this video. I think he's tried to capitalize as best as he could, and the music is not bad. He is primarily a rapper. It's up to the standard of most other street rappers in his subgenre he's trying to be involved in, but I think Say Cheese TV may have been a better platform for him to debut an interview on than No Jumper, although I'm not sure how Sean Cotton feels about him because they are both from Texas, and Sean is usually very in tune with all of the rappers coming out of there. If I was forced to make a bet, I would bet against GINN. This is a case of the gimmick outrunning the music, in a similar vein of certain artist personalities outrunning the music, such as Coi Leray in the past before she was able to land her hit song Players. Perhaps the olden days when music was so gatekept and the supply was controlled similarly to that of diamonds had some unintended quality control, or quantity control. Record labels had the funding to record, press, and distribute CDs as well as send songs to radio. Now the supply of music is so high we couldn't consume all of it if we wanted to, and that's just in one particular genre, let alone the hundreds of other music genres out there. Whilst democratizing access to music and lowering the barrier to entry is great for us as consumers and for artists that want to create and express themselves, I can't help but feel like it's this double-edged sword that leads artists to compete in avenues that aren't just musical quality, creative direction, or artistic visuals, but optimizing for social platforms whose language is tailored to capturing and keeping attention on their platform, which is a separate skill altogether. This can be disappointing even to filmmakers who want to share great pieces of work, but most films, if uploaded as YouTube videos, would flounder because they don't get to the point quick enough, which is what YouTube's algorithm is customized for. Think about it. When someone wants to watch a film, they're prepared to invest the entire hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, or less if it's a short film, but that same audience is not the general audience of a social platform like Facebook or YouTube. The only way they'll dedicate that amount of time is if they already know, like, and trust the creator's dedication and commitment to that quality. But for said creator to establish that, they would have had to follow the unspoken rules of the platform, which creates this chicken and the egg problem. The same can be said for music. I put out a question on Twitter, which you should follow me at @TheMindOfHY, asking people what the most recent song or artist they remember blowing up just from the audio. Great examples of this in the past are Bryson Tiller's Don't, The Weeknd's Mixtapes, Hell, even some rappers blew up like this. But the only names that came up were LiAngelo Ball's Tweaker, which is somewhat true. Whilst the song was premiered on the live stream, unintentionally it spread from the audio. But an important detail to note is that we already knew who LiAngelo Ball was. If it was a random artist that we had never heard of that made Tweaker, would we have spread it that far and wide? Would we have even heard about it? I'm confident in saying no, we wouldn't have. The only song I was able to come up with was $1 Million Baby, a great song by an artist debuting who is not a rapper, Tommy Richmond. Most of the people who have heard the song have no idea what he looks like, and whilst a couple of people tried to debate against it, saying there was a visual teaser or a snippet of it, that isn't what blew it up. There was no aspect of that visual that was shared everywhere or was enticing enough to be shared. The music carried. Big X the Plug is another rapper who's blown up through Spotify, one of the greatest mysteries, with his song Back on My BS and combining for over 500 million streams. Both of these songs charted on the Hot 100, and I can safely say there is a large swath of people who know these songs, could recognize them, enjoy them, but had no idea what Big X the Plug looked like for a very long time. They may still not know what he looks like. The reason why his song was auto-played on all our Spotifys for months straight is still a mystery, but the fact that we caught on to the music and continues to stream it is an example of the exact opposite of needing gimmicks or visuals, which is the purest form of music that we all claim to want. The only other rapper I've seen this with was someone who blew up alongside Big X the Plug, Lyth, an Australian rapper whose song Fallback has nearly 250 million streams in less than a year, seemingly all independent. He had nothing to do with Big X the Plug, but I discovered him the same way I did Big X, at around the same time, and his song was good enough to draw me to the rest of his music, with his best song being Hold Out, featuring Canadian artist FRVR Friday. The only American artist Lyth has collaborated with was Lil TJ on the remix of Fall Back. 1900 Rugrat was a must for this video because he was an example of someone who day in and day out recorded himself freestyling or rapping to a beat on TikTok, and just had one blow up. Sure, was he designing and distributing a gimmick with his On the Radar freestyle? Yes, if he's smart, but that's not what was necessary for him to build his core fan base. That was done through talent and consistency alone. Image definitely played some sort of a role since it was via video, but him taking it to the next level is what the Gimmick did for him. The examples of rappers who blew up from a gimmick and were able to sustain a career are few and far between. But rappers who are able to blow up from a gimmick and go mainstream are even thinner. Lil Nas X is the king of this. A Nicki Minaj stan account creating a parody country song Old Town Road that was taken off the country charts for not being an actual country song after going viral on TikTok, and what ensued was something that happens once in a generation. Accusations of discrimination began to gain steam, and this led people to support the song even more. Billy Ray Cyrus hopping on the remix, leading to it being the longest charting #1 song ever and going diamond. And whilst the country charts were correct, it didn't matter. Lil Nas X was not supposed to keep blowing up. This song was half meme and half catchy, a children's song unintended, but what he did next shocked the world. He followed up with the song Panini, that would peak at number 5 on the Hot 100, his second top 10 and 7 times platinum selling song. 2021 would be the time for Lil Nas X to prove himself after Old Town Road had run its course, and he would knock it out of the park. His returning single Montero, accompanied by a music video designed to draw attention by any means necessary, with him dropping on a stripper pole and throwing it back on Satan, his own social media rollout, and previous knowledge of virality, with a very catchy tune despite what you may think about him, earned him his second #1, with his song Industry Baby getting him his third #1 featuring Jack Harlow with the same method at play. This led to a great commercial opening for Lil Nas X's debut album Montero, charting at #2 with 126,000 units in the first week. Lil Nas X has yet to release his sophomore album, nearly 4 years later, and his best performing song last year was J. Christ, which was a complete failure of an attempt at the gimmick and rage bait he was able to generate with Montero and Industry Baby. In this music video, he has himself nailed to the cross like Jesus depicted in the Bible, dressing up as Satan, depicting himself as Noah from Noah's Ark, and dressing up like a zesty angel with a wig and long acrylic nails. The commentators that may be offended were burnt out. I didn't even hear about this until I was putting together this video, and it's evidenced by its flop, peaking at a measly 69 on the Hot 100 in the first week and completely falling off afterwards. The other tracks Lil Nas X released in 2024, Light Again, Need Dat Boy, Here We Go, and Where Do We Go Now, all failed to chart. Granted, the last two were for two separate films, Here We Go for a Netflix film, and Where Do We Go Now for the Lil Nas X documentary. Lil Nas X is an example of someone that had a successful career, despite whatever happens from here. Achieving 3 #1 chart positions for songs that stayed in the top 10 for months is something that 99.9% of successful artists will never have in their lifetime. But it is also a cautionary tale of what happens when you stretch the gimmick for far too long and alienate the majority of people that could have been your fans. Bones is an example of the antithesis of the majority of rappers. He's a white rapper, fully independent, with no real gimmick, that has had a career spanning longer than most mainstream rappers. In his 13th year of releasing music under this name, he still has over 5.6 million monthly listeners and has amassed well over 1 billion streams on Spotify alone. No mainstream features, minimal features at all, never charting on the Hot 100, and with zero promotion. His album and mixtape promotion has consisted of tweets, IG posts, and prior to the streaming era, a Mediafire and SoundCloud link. At times, he would tour twice a year, overseas and in the US, after having built a sizable fan base with his initial group Raider Clan and then subsequent departure to his own Team Sesh and early affiliations with Chris Travis's Waterboys and Xavier Wolf's Hollow Squad. Larry June is another rapper with his own movement that has been silently crushing it the past couple of years, but first got noticed back in 2014. OG Maco really shined a light on him when he blew up, but Larry June was already pushing out his first project in 2010. He has seen rappers blow up after him, rise to higher highs than him with mainstream success, top 10 records even, and then completely fall off the face of the earth, earning less streams than he does now. Larry June built a movement and a brand more than a gimmick, with the orange emoji being synonymous with him and his fan base, but he's been building this up for a decade and is patient, even going through his own record deal with Warner before opting for the independent route over 10 years ago. The thing is, both examples that I mentioned came from over a decade ago. If it's even possible for a rapper to genuinely blow up nowadays without a gimmick, I haven't really seen it. There are rappers that are genuinely building up movements right now in a business such as Bay Area-based rapper La Russell, but he hasn't caught a hit song or struck the mainstream in any capacity, even for a moment. But for him, he doesn't care. And that's where the disconnect is. Because for a lot of upcoming rappers, if you could ask them if they could be a Bones, Larry June, La Russell, or if they could have the heights that G-Eazy, Lil Nas X, and even 6ix9ine did without the hate, they may say the former, but 9 times out of 10, their gut wants the latter. Because a lot of the allure of success as a music artist is the fame and recognition, being that guy, as opposed to the money in their pocket and settling for, God forbid, a low-key but well-funded lifestyle. There is no hope for lazy listeners. The attention-generating gimmick rappers will consistently keep popping up. Some will have staying power, others won't. But there are so many hidden gems out there of rappers and artists of other genres who are making incredible music that you couldn't even imagine. A couple of the rappers I listed above are solid, but there are other rappers and artists in different genres who are hidden gems that can only be mined by people who are willing to get their hands dirty. Once upon a time, that was me. And while my priorities shifted and other things became more important than new music, it became difficult to discover lesser-known talented artists. But one thing I never did was complain, because I knew it was my fault. The music that finds you will always be what has the most money behind it and is capable of spreading through word of mouth or social media algorithms or radio. What you find will always be exactly what you want. Don't complain because you weren't hand-delivered exactly what you want when you didn't put in any effort to find it. The best music in history is being released right now.